For the longest time, the story of AI has been super simple. Bigger is always better. More data, more computing power, bigger and bigger models. But what if that whole approach is a dead end? Today, we're going to dig into a really different way of thinking, one that combines AI with the ideas from quantum computing to build intelligence that isn't just bigger, but actually fundamentally smarter. So the entire AI industry, right? It's been locked in this kind of arms race, just chasing scale. But the big question we really need to ask is this: is bigger really better? Because all the signs are pointing to the idea that this chase for sheer size isn't just getting expensive, it's actually becoming a trap. And this brings us to what's being called the modern AI trap. Now, if you're a builder, an engineer, someone actually working on this stuff, this isn't just some theory. It's your daily reality. It's this constant grind of making frustrating compromises, being forced to choose between options that are all kind of flawed. So here's the problem in a nutshell. The industry is just slamming into a wall of diminishing returns. The costs are absolutely exploding, but the actual performance gains are getting smaller and smaller. We're spending fortunes for these tiny incremental improvements, and, well, it's just not going to work long term. And this slide just lays out the painful choice perfectly. On one hand, you can use one of the big, powerful closed-source models. It's easy to get started, sure, but you have zero idea what's going on inside, and you definitely don't own your model. Or you can go the open source route. You get more control, which is great, but the cost, the complexity, and just the sheer time it takes to manage everything, it becomes a total nightmare. It feels like a lose-lose situation. So what does that leave us with? A massive, gaping hole in the market. Builders are stuck, They're looking for one single platform that can give them what they really need: full control over their model, true ownership of their data, and access to the next wave of AI learning. Okay, so how do we break out of this trap? Well, the source material we're looking at today points to a totally new way of thinking, a new paradigm led by a platform called Quantum Infra, which is really designed from the ground up to be the answer. So what is Quantum Infra exactly? It's a no-code platform for building a totally new kind of AI model, a hybrid one. The easiest way to think about it is this: it uses regular, classical computers for all the heavy lifting, but it cleverly injects what are called quantum-inspired algorithms to help the model think differently, to explore solutions in a much more efficient way. The goal isn't to build another giant do-everything AI. It's about creating smaller, super-specialized expert models that are amazing at specific, high-value jobs. I love this quote because it just nails the core idea here. Remember when GPUs came along and suddenly made deep learning possible for everyone? Well, the argument here is that quantum-style computation is the next big unlock, but for algorithms. It just opens up a whole new set of rules for how a model can learn and find the absolute best answer. Okay, so that's the big picture. But how does this actually work in the real world? How do these hybrid models deliver on this promise of being smarter, not just bigger? Let's break it down. The whole process is designed to be unbelievably simple. You bring a small, focused dataset, pick a goal from a preset list, and then you basically run a head-to-head race, a regular classical model versus a new quantum-enhanced one. And here's the magic. It trains way faster, it uses less compute, and you get this clear side-by-side comparison at the end. The idea is to just let the results speak for themselves so you can confidently deploy the one that's clearly better. And what's the result of doing this? Get this. You can create a quantum hybrid model that is 20 times smaller than its classical counterpart, and yet it actually outperforms it on that specific task. That's not just a little better, that's a whole new ballgame in terms of efficiency. This chart right here shows you exactly where Quantum Infra slots in. As a builder, your options have been pretty limited. You can go with the big guys for ease of use, but you give up all your control and ownership. Or you can use platforms like Hugging Face or the big cloud providers to get ownership, but you get drowned in complexity. Quantum Infra is aiming to be the very first to check all four of these boxes, giving you control, ownership, and this new hybrid tech all wrapped up in a simple, easy-to-use package. Okay, so theory is great and all, but where does a technology like this actually win? Where does it make a real difference? Let's shift from the how to the where and look at some real-world examples where this approach totally dominates. Let's take something really high stakes, like medical decision support. A huge, terrifying problem with standard LLMs is that they can hallucinate. They just make stuff up, but they say it with 100% confidence. That's dangerous. Quantum Infra's models, on the other hand, are built to naturally understand and express uncertainty. This means you get a confidence-aware output, which is just so much better for highly regulated fields like healthcare. All right, let's switch gears to another huge industry, finance. Classical AI often gets stuck in little ruts, finding a solution that's good enough, but not actually the best one. It also tends to overfit, meaning it gets really good at predicting the past, but falls apart when new data comes in. These quantum-inspired methods are just fundamentally better at exploring the entire map of possibilities to find the true optimal path. And that leads to things like better, safer investment portfolios.
And it doesn't stop there. The list of applications goes on and on. Think about scientific discovery, like designing new materials, or even using this to optimize other AI models, a huge headache for engineers. And because these models are so tiny and efficient, they are absolutely perfect for things like IoT devices and embedded AI, where you just don't have a lot of power to work with.
So you can see this is about way more than just building a cooler tool for today's problems. The strategy here is much, much bigger. It's about building a defensible, long-term business by owning a really critical piece of tomorrow's AI infrastructure. So how do you build a moat around this? How do you make it defensible? It really comes down to 4 key things. First, their unique hybrid architecture is just really hard to copy. Second, they have data pipelines that give users unique advantages. Third, the whole product is built around the idea of data ownership. And finally, they have a huge advantage by being the first to really define this whole new category, hybrid model infrastructure. And this is what I love. It brings us right back to where we started. The real product here isn't just a better model, is it? It's a direct solution to that AI trap we talked about at the beginning. The product is ownership, it's transparency, it's control, all handed back to the builder. And all of this ladders up to a really powerful vision for the future, which is captured perfectly in this one line. The goal isn't to compete with today's giants. It's to build the essential infrastructure for what comes next, an era of AI that's specialized, efficient, and transparent, the post-LLM era. So this leaves us with one final, pretty powerful thought. This technology really does represent a fundamental shift in how we can solve problems with AI. So the question to you is this: if you weren't trapped by the need for massive scale, if you could build something truly smarter instead of just bigger, what's the first problem you'd go after?